Hey everyone, it's Brooke here from Anita Goodesign. For today's Watch and Stitch video, we are going to be creating a mini pot holder. So we are going to be working with design number 1 for today's tutorial. Go ahead and hoop a piece of no-show mesh stabilizer and load your design into the machine. Once you have that all set, we'll go ahead, place our hoop in, and run our first machine step, which will be our placement stitch for our batting. All right, and now that we have our placement stitch all ready, it is time for your batting, or as a little added tip and trick, when you are creating any pot holder or anything that's going to be involving heat, you're going to want to use an Embroidery material. Now this will protect your countertops and your hands when you are using this in the kitchen. So for today, instead of using a batting, I'm going to go ahead and use an Embroidery batting so you can kind of see what it looks like and how it moves and works. So I'm going to go ahead, lay my Embroidery over top of my placement stitch. I have some handy pink tape here, embroidery tape. I'm going to tape it down just so it stays in place. Now again, you want to make sure you're covering that on all 4 sides. And I'm just taping the sides of this as I know it's going to stay in the correct position. So now we can go ahead, place our hoop back in the machine, run our next machine step, which will be the tacking stitch for our Embroidery. Now if you're using batting, you may want to use more than 1 layer, but it is highly recommended for any heat surfaces, whether you're protecting your countertops or your hands when using pot holders. You really do want to have that extra protection, so we do recommend using an Embroidery material. You can get this online or at your local craft store. It's a great material to use. It's very flexible, lightweight, and it's perfect for protecting all of your stuff. Now we can go ahead and remove that pink tape, and we're going to do the same technique as we would with our batting. We're going to go ahead and trim that extra excess Embroidery, and we're going to trim it close to the tacking stitch line. With our Embroidery all trimmed, we're going to go ahead and take our base fabric. You're going to want to lay your base fabric over top of your block with right side facing up. Be sure to leave room for seam allowance so we make sure that everything fits and turns out nicely in the end. So once you have your base fabric placed down, if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and run your placement stitch. If not, I'm going to go ahead and tape it in place. Now we will run our next machine step, which will be the tacking stitch for our base fabric. With our base fabric all tacked in place, we can go ahead and run the standard embroidery portion for this design. Now that we have finished our embroidery, it's time to add a layer of Embroidery and our lining to the back of our hoop. Now in this case, if you would like to, you can use batting. However, I'm going to use another layer of Embroidery as extra protection for my hands. With everything secured in place with tape, we're going to go ahead and head back to our machine and run our next step, which will be the tacking stitch for our lining and our Embroidery. Now it's time to flip our hoop over, and we're going to trim our lining and our Embroidery or batting, whichever you chose to use. We are going to trim the excess fabric close to the tacking stitch line. Again, remember we are trimming the lining and the Embroidery. Now we can go ahead and place our hoop back into the machine. I've went ahead and switched thread colors. This is just another tip and trick because our next step is the marking stitches for our fabric flaps and our ribbon. So I switched my color, that way I am able to see where I need to line my fabric up. The first thing we are going to align is our ribbon. Now you're going to take your piece of ribbon and you're going to fold it in half. You will notice that the ends of our ribbon will be on the top of our fold. So we're going to go ahead and lay our ribbon just like so within the seam allowance using our marking stitch for that ribbon. And go ahead and tape that in place. As an added tip and trick, I have taped the top of my ribbon as well as the bottom of my ribbon to ensure that when I'm placing down my panels, that my ribbon does not get stuck in any of the tacking stitches. With our ribbon in place, we can go ahead and lay down our fabric pieces. So again, we have these panels here. At first, they were these wonderful squares. However, you're going to press and fold using a steamed iron. And the folded edge is the edge we will align with our tacking stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and lay my bottom panel down, and then I'll pick my hoop up to show you what it looks like. Now here you can see that folded edge is nicely aligned with our marking stitches. We're going to go ahead and repeat that same process with the top of our fold. Now that it's all nice and secure, we can go ahead and place this back in the machine, and we'll run our last machine step, which will be the tacking stitch for everything. Now let's go ahead, remove our tape, and remove our design from the hoop. Normally, you would follow along with your tacking stitch using a ruler and rotary cutter. However, today I'm going to use these handy scissors right here to trim along the edge. For this, you're going to want to leave around about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now, because I am full of tips and tricks for today's tutorial, the last tip I have for you is clipping your corners at a 45-degree angle. When you go to flip your design right side out, this will help your corners have a nice finish. And for the last part of our design, we will go ahead and use our little hand flaps here to flip our design right side out. And there you have it. That is how you make a mini pot holder. I hope this tutorial inspires you with your very next project, and happy sewing!